Hi everyone, Darren Carnell here. Welcome to part 5, I think it is, of the Biggie Smalls tutorial. We're ready to go, so let's just get straight into it. I'll bring this camera in. Should be about there. Close-ish. Okay, that should do. Let's get me in the corner. Hello. Right, so let me just check I've got everything going. I've got the music on. The video is recording. I've got my mic on. The audio is up, up, up. Yep, that's working. Okay, let's get started. Right, so this time we are just doing some more work on the skin tones. It's just going to be more layers, adding different washes, dry brushes, stuff like that. And it's basically going to be more of the same process that we do all the time, just taking it a bit further. That's how we get the accurate looking and realistic and good looking, honestly, skin tones. We don't try and aim for a colour. I'm always getting emails and questions, people asking me, what colour do you use? Well, loads. There's no single answer to that. I use lots of colours. I mix lots of different mixes. I mix everything on the fly, just going by what I think should be used. There's no single colour and there's no single layer. As you know by now, it's always colours with dry brushes of different colours on top and washes on top of that, and individual small area washes just in different bits of the face, and layers and layers and layers and layers, and eventually at the end of it you have a head that looks realistic. That's why most factory toys and statues look a bit rubbish, because they don't have the time to do that. They can't do that. And why some of the repaints that you see out there, they're good, not as good as they could be, because they don't do as many layers, they don't spend as much time on it. But that's what we do, that's what I'm doing, that's what you're going to be doing if you're trying this. So let's get on with it. Right, I am just taking some bright red and I've watered it down loads, and I'm just adding some on different parts of the faces. On the faces? He's got multiple faces now. I'm adding it to different parts of the face. I just want to redden it up a little bit. Not a lot, not too much, but just to add a bit more blood into the skin, basically. And I'm just dabbing down random bits, very thin. I mean, there's almost no paint there, it's largely water, but there is colour in there. In fact, I'm going to thin that down even more. And then I'm going in with my fingers and I'm dabbing it off again, and that thins it down even more, but also spreads it around and makes it a bit random, makes it a bit sort of moves it around, makes it random, thins it down. It's a way you could do that with a brush. You don't have to do it with your fingers if you've got anything against touching the surfaces that you're painting. I always make sure my hands are clean before I start painting, so I've got no worries about that. But it's another element of, you know, I always say I like painting with brushes because I like the physical contact that it gives me. The fact that I'm holding a brush and that brush is touching the thing, that it's not just done with an airbrush from a distance. I like the physical connection. And if I'm doing things and I think I want to move that paint around a little bit and make it a little bit, I can just do that with my finger, and it's an instant. You don't have to get an airbrush and, you know, thin the paint down and water it down and do it and then clean the airbrush after. It's just boom, for instant. I can get in there and I can do what I need to. So I'm just looking at some pictures as we are doing this. Again, obviously I've got a bunch of reference photos up on my screen, as I always do. Now I'm going to put that to one side. I would carry on, but I want to just, while I'm here, do a similar thing to the hands and the body part of it, just to add some random colour to it while I'm here, because it's all got to match, it's all got to look the same. And I just want a little bit here and there. Well, that's all I'm doing on that one. I just want to make sure that if I do something on one bit, I add the same thing to all of them, just because it'll make it easier than, you know, doing the face and finishing it and picking it up afterwards and going, right, that's done, and then having to go to the hands or this bit, the neck bit, and afterwards go, okay, what do I need to do to make that the same colour? Because I'm essentially going through the same process twice then, and I really don't need to do that. If I've got the paint on the brush and I know that whatever that is that I'm doing needs to be done on all of them, I'll just do them on all of them, because then everything's getting the same process. And I don't have to revisit it later and think, oh, I don't know how I did that, because it's already done. But it doesn't mean that they're all getting done identically. You know, I'm not covering the whole thing in each one. If I'm painting the hands, I'm only putting the colour on certain parts of the hand. If I'm doing the neck or the chest, I'm putting the colour on certain parts of it where I can see it needs that colour. So I'm still applying the individual you know, the artistic look to it. I'm looking at things and thinking, where does it need colour? It's just that I'm roughly going in and doing them at the same time, so I sort of think, or sort of know, that everything is on together. Now, thankfully, I am not struggling today to talk like I was yesterday. Last time on the last video. I think it's a combination of being tired and having done lots of painting, just constantly trying to catch up on stuff, and my brain just couldn't think of anything to say. It's just fine. It's gonna happen sometimes. Well, thankfully, I'm a little bit more alert today, so I think we're okay. I've got some tanned flesh colour here. I'm just doing this really thin, but it's just enough to add a bit of variation. Very subtle, almost can't see it. I mean, it could, you know, almost not be there and it might almost look the same, but it won't look the same, because that's why I add these things on. Every tiny little detail, don't drop the hands, every tiny little detail all adds up, and when it's all together you end up with a really cool looking head or statue, or you know, whatever it is that you're painting. So I've just got some of that tanned flesh colour here, and I can hear a key going in the front door, which means my wife's about to come home, so she might shout up to me because I've got my door in my studio open. Hello, I'm filming. So I've just got tanned flesh, and I'm adding bits to the hands because I've got to lighten up these bits. The palms of the hands need to be a lot lighter, and I knew I'd be adding that in layers anyway, and we'll still come back and we'll do some more. And I just want to get some on there as well. I'm going to come back with the leather brown on this bit. I'm just doing this while it's here because, well, I think it will benefit from it. So there's a little bit on the hand. So now obviously pick up the other hand, do the same thing. Now this other hand is holding a microphone, so there's not as much interior palm, you know, area to do. Just some bits around the microphone, some bits in between the fingers. So tanned flesh colour, mix it in there and do the thing. Give me 1 second. Hello.
Hello.
Just to lighten that up, and I'm going to brush some of that off and just do a bit over the wrist, do some on the back of the hand. I'm going to lighten this up, like I said, properly with leather brown. That's more the colour, but this tan flesh while I'm here will start off the job and get it going. And I'm again making sure not to touch the knuckles, because the knuckles are supposed to be darker, which we did last time. So I'm just leaving those, and I may go back and add some more onto that, but if I leave them, then it just means that it's a bit easier next time. So put that down to one side for now. Okay, so I'm just going to do a little bit. Don't want to do much on this bit because it's not really the colour that I want here. But I'm just going to dab some bits on the chest, brush it off with my fingers. Now the important thing about this piece is that it has to, eventually when the piece is finished, it obviously has to match. So you have to make sure that what you're doing on one piece does match up with the other piece, and not just in terms of basic colour, but in terms of the physiology. Physiology, is that the right word? I think it is. How the body is. We have different colours on different parts of our skin. Our faces, our cheeks are different colour to our chins are different colour to our necks are different colours to our chests, and all stuff like that. It's got to match, but it's got to be relevant to whichever bit it is. So with this, it's got to look like it's the same guy, but it's got to look like it's a human body as well, and that's what we're heading towards. Whoop, nearly dropped that then. That would have been fun. Okay, so put that there. Okay, let's pick this up again. I think I'm gonna put that there for now. I'm gonna get some chocolate brown, and I'm gonna mix some chocolate brown in with the red. I think that is gonna give me a colour that I want. I'm gonna thin it right down, super duper thin. Let's see what that's like. Get most of that off. Ooh. Okay, most of that off. Let's give this a wash and see what it looks like. So I'm going to leave underneath darker, because I always leave under the chins a bit darker because it helps with the illusion of shadow. And if it was a full-size sculpt, I would be more inclined to paint it the actual colours and nothing else, because when things are bigger they cast the shadows in the correct way. If it was a full-size sculpt, they cast the shadows on themselves in the same way that a full-size real head would. When things are small, they sort of do it in the same way, but because it's a different size, light sources affect them in a different way. So a light bulb will cast a certain shadow on me, but if the head is this big, it'll cast a different sort of shadow. And I just always feel that leaving the underneath area of a chin, it could be a beard, it could be, you know, a normal chin, leaving it slightly darker within the same tonal ranges, but just leaving it slightly darker just helps with that impression of it being underneath. It just makes it look a bit like a shadow. But it doesn't look, if you do it right, it doesn't look like something that's being painted on. It just looks like a shadow, and that's when you know you've done your job right. I actually need to I want to get his upper lip a little bit lighter, so I'm just gonna, if I can move my glasses, brush some chocolate brown directly on there, because I had it a little bit darker than I wanted it. Let's put his hat on, let's have a look. Tell you what, let's do the whole thing. Be careful not to scratch the paint, because obviously none of this has been varnished yet, and it easily scratches when it's just the bare paint, especially if you're touching things against itself. But let's put it all together and have a look. Looking good. Okay, let's take all these bits off. Being careful. Talking about paint scratches, there's a little speck there. Tiny white speck that's been scratched. This is off because the hair is raised up the sculpt. Clearly a bit's just been knocked. That's fine, let's go back and I'll fix that. There's no problem. Okay, so that's looking good. So I want to, let's see, just looking at the pictures, because I'm not painting it like a, if I was just trying to make it look human, I could paint it without looking at any reference pictures, but I'm not trying to make it look human. I'm trying to make it look like him, like the particular person. And when you're trying to do that, you always look at reference pictures, because everybody looks different. We all have different skin colours, different areas that blush, different areas that have shadows. We've all got things. Actually, I don't want that, I want that colour. Going to do a little bit up here. I'll take some of the flesh colour and a bit of that browny red and mix them and do some around his chin and jaw area. Just touch the back of his ears, a little bit in the middle of his forehead. Okay, so he's got more shadow on the side of his nose, and that comes down a bit onto his cheeks. Okay, let me just get some, throw that brush in there. Umber. Get some umber. Clean this brush off. Right. Actually, let me get a smaller brush because I want to go in with a bit closer detail. Doesn't have to be a perfect brush, but I want it to be. There you go, that'll do. I don't need it to be a super duper skinny brush, and I don't need it to be a perfect brand new brush, but I've got to have some level of control with it, so I don't want it to be one of the older brushes that are massively splayed out. So I'm using this one here. It's a little bit curly on the end, but that's fine because that will let me do what I'm doing. Let me move the focus up. Second camera, and move the focus. Where are we? About there. Yep, I should do it. So I move the focus to there. Can we see that okay? The awkward thing is I'm looking over the top of my glasses. Because when I'm looking at things that are that close to my eyes, to my face, I can't look through my glasses because they help me look far away. Or far away. Basically anything further than like a few inches in front of me. But when I'm looking at something, when I'm painting like really fine details, and I need to look at it really closely, I could use, you know, one of those magnifying lens things, but I'm actually fine just doing it with my eyes. But it just means I have to look over the top of my glasses because I can't see. If I look through my glasses, then I can't see what I'm doing. Now with my other glasses, like my squarer ones, I can look underneath the lens, and it's actually quite easy. I just tilt my head up and look through. But with these big massive round ones, I can't look over them or under them. I have to pull them down on my nose and look over the top. Just looking at the pictures again, what do I need to do? I need to make that bit darker from corner of his mouth up to there. Okay, so taking this bit, this is a really washed down umber, so it's very dark brown, but it's really washed down. Let me get another brush here. Let's get a dry brush and just blend those edges in. I'll keep hold of that. So I'm taking that bit and bringing that down. Oops, I need a bit more. Where's it gone? There you go. Bringing that down from the side of the nose and then corner of the mouth and down there. Do the same on the other side, corner of the mouth and down there, and then blend it in around the edges. And sometimes when you do things like this, they look too much, and if that's the case, you can just put some water straight on it and wipe it off, or just know that you're going to go back with a different colour when you're doing more of your work later on, and you can just take it back a little bit the other way, and that's fine to do that. Sometimes I do that. I'll do a thing, and when I'm doing it, I've realised, oh, I've gone a bit too far there, and sometimes I'll fix it straight away and just, you know, wet the paint and take it straight off. And sometimes I'll just go, you know what, I know I'm going back with a different colour in a bit anyway, so I'll fix it then. So I'll just hold this up for you. It's kind of difficult to see because of the big light that's above the camera. It makes the images through the webcam look really shiny, and it's a bit shiny, but it looks less shiny to my eyes than it does on camera. But once it's been finished, like completely finished, it'll be sprayed with gloss varnish, and then it'll be sprayed with matte varnish, and that'll dull it right down, and then you'll really be able to see all the details. Looking through the camera, the shine can sort of make it difficult sometimes. Like if I do that, you can't really see what's going on the side of the face, but if I tilt it a little bit that way, there you go, if I do a little bit like that, you can see a little bit of more what's going on. In fact, while we're here, I'm just looking at that now. Going to get some more of that darker bit and put it. Hang on, looking at the pictures again. Okay, so a bit from the ear coming out onto the cheek, and just some random bits, and get that other brush, blah 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 blah, random it up, blur up the edges a bit, do the same on the other side, so the ear out into the cheek, and just some random areas, darken some random bits, and then go in, soften the edges, spread it out a bit, and because it's so thin, it won't really look like a blob of paint that's been put on, because we're really dealing with fine layers here. So it's just going to be subtle additions. Now what doesn't help, in most of his bloody photographs he's wearing sunglasses. It's very inconsiderate of him. So I've got a couple of pictures that actually show his eyes, that let me see what I need to see. The others I can use for the rest of the faces, but if I want to do around his eyes, I've got a couple of pictures. Now thankfully they're quite clear pictures that I've got, so they do give me some good detail, but I always like having lots of reference pictures from different angles in different lights and stuff, because it helps you make sure that you know you're painting it right, because you might be working from a few pictures that were done in a certain light, and as we all know, when we take pictures, yeah, and you'll have seen this on your own pictures that you take on your phone, sometimes things can look more blue, sometimes they can look a bit warmer, they can look a bit darker. They don't always look as you see them with your eyes. So if you're working from photographs that are like that, you'll paint a person and it won't actually be what they look like. So if you have a big collection of images, then you are more likely to get it right, because you can average it out and look at them and think, okay, that looks like that because it was done in sunlight. I think that looks different because it was done in a film studio or something, and you can work it out, and you can usually tell what a person looks like and what is how they look on film, maybe. And sometimes you'll want them to look how they look on film and not how they look in person, because some people look different in person than they do on the screen, and depending on what you're painting, you might want it to look like the actual real person. But sometimes if you do that, it won't feel like the character that you know on screen, because that's not how they looked. They were lit a different way. They had makeup on. Their hair was different. So I always like getting as many pictures as I can, as many reference images as I can to work from. And I've got a few good ones here, and some like really clear ones. A couple of really good studio, from a photo shoot. And thankfully, one of those is one that shows his eyes, so I can see which part of his eyes are darker, which part are lighter, where does he have shadows, where is his skin a different colour, and that all helps. Okay. Just doing a thin wash of leather brown over his nostrils, and right on the tip of his nose, just dabbing some there. I'm going to darken a little bit of his nose in a bit, but I just want to, let's see, I want to make sure that bit, like the tips of his nostrils, I want them to be quite light. And then just the tip of his nose. While I've got that colour, I am going to do some random spots on his cheeks. Do some on the side. He has some light patches, or lighter patches on the side in fact I'm going to do that as a wash. I'm just going to paint that on as a wash, and then dab 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 around the edges, dab dab dab. Do the same on the other side, so dab it around as a wash and then blur the edges with my finger. Okay, that's cool. So I'm going to just wipe that off the brush. It doesn't have to be fully clean. Sometimes if you're working between colours and they're in the same tonal range, then you don't have to completely clean your brush. You can just sort of wipe it off on a bit of cloth and carry on. So I just want to darken that bit there. Can we see that on camera? Have I got that in the right place? Where's the focus? Up there. Let's move that up a bit. So I'm just darkening that up there. Dab the front of the nose. Let me go across that, across the front there, just to darken that. Dab the front just to thin it down and blend it in. Let me paint the underneath of the nose dark, just to help with the, like I was saying, the illusion of the shadow. Now his skin actually is a bit darker, sort of right in the corner between his nose and his upper lip. The actual colour of his skin is darker, and you've got the shadow effect underneath his nose, so just want to make sure I've got that right. Where's the focus? There. So while we've got that dark brown, where was that light patch? Actually needs to be black, but I might as well start it. I really can't look underneath these glasses. Hang on. I'll do for now. I'll go back over it with black when it's dried, but at least I'll cover it a little bit. And tell you what, while I've got that fairly thick umber on the brush, let me, there's the focus, let me go onto the eyebrows again. because I did a thin wash on that, but as soon as I've got some colour here, I might as well add some more. I'm going to go in, not right now, but at some point before we finish, and check the shape of his eyebrows, because his eyebrows are sculpted a certain way on this head, and looking at one of the pictures I've got, it seems close enough. I'm not entirely convinced it's the full shape that it needs to be, but I'll look up to see if I've got any other pictures that will confirm. But it's that whole thing of he's always bloody wearing sunglasses, which really doesn't help. Alright, take some umber and just dab some around there. Blob, blob, blob. Do the same around there. Blob, blob, blob. Let's darken under his chin. I want a wash of that red colour, and I want it on the tip of his nose. And using my finger just to thin off the edges. And I'm going to do some over his lips as well, because I've already done some, but I just want to add a little bit of pinky red back to it, just while I've got the colour on the brush. It's just, sometimes you'll be working on a thing and you'll notice another part of the face and you think, oh, that could benefit from some of this colour as well, and you just throw it on while you've got it. You don't have to paint things in certain orders and go, okay, well, I'm painting the eyes now, and just look at the eyes. If you've got a colour on your brush and you notice or you think that, well, that colour I've got on my brush now, I actually think that the chin might benefit from that colour as well. And just, you can basically fly all over the face that you're working on and add colours all over the place. It's actually it's how I work a lot of the time. I'll have a bunch of paint pots open and I'll be dipping my brushes in and out of them, and I'll be using colours all over a face quite randomly, but in the places where it's needed. I mean, quite randomly in appearance. I'm not working in any one area, but the colours are going where the colours need to be. So those ears need to have some leather brown put on at some point, or a similar mixture. Now this is quite slow work at the moment. If you look at this now, we've been going for 40 minutes already, and I'm looking at this, and to this, to the first glance, it doesn't really look like we've done much. But that's how this works. Once you get to a certain stage, some of the early bits are quite fast, and you throw them on. Let me change cameras while I'm talking. Hang on. Main camera, there we go. Some of the early bits are sort of satisfying in as much as you're throwing layers of paint on quite quickly and you're covering the head, or you're covering an arm, or whatever it is that you're painting. And because you're visibly, noticeably putting layers over an entire thing, or if you're painting dark hair on top of a head, and you'll get your dark brown and you'll paint it on, and you'll notice a difference. It's like a big standout difference. Those bits are sort of satisfying in as much as you can see what you've done. But all these bits, you get to the end of the day, or the end of your session, and you'll sometimes look at it and you think, I've been painting for 2 hours there and nothing's changed. It has changed. It's just very subtle changes, and those subtle changes are the things that make something look alive. I know some people who do the work now, but especially if you went back a few years when people started custom painting action figures. I mean, you go back 10 years, but I've been doing this 10 years now at the beginning, and this is including my own work in that, because my early work, even though it was considered good and loads of people came to me for repaints, I look back at my early work and I'm thinking, oh my god, did I send that out? Because it's not what I'm doing now. It's nowhere near the level of detail and subtlety and everything that I'm doing now. You would paint the basic layers and you would do some shadows and do some things, and it would get to a certain stage and then that would be it. And they looked good in comparison to how they were, because action figures were rubbish at the beginning. But they never looked alive. They never had that indescribable thing of life, of being alive, of having that spark of life in them. And all of these subtle bits that you do, and you get to the end of the day and you think, I haven't done anything. You have. All of those things add up and make the things seem more real. They really do. 42 minutes. I'm going to stop this session for now, just so it's not too long. And as always, thanks for watching. Next time it's going to be more of the same. I might put a layer on the eyes next time. I might mix up it's like a greyish yellowish cream colour. I sort of get a cream and I get some grey and a bit of yellow and make the base colour of the eyes. I always go on top with layers and take some grey and paint shadows in the corners and loads of things. But the base layer, we'll mix up some of that and we'll put some thin layers on top. We'll do it in thin layers so it's nice and smooth. But we'll put that on, and that will help us see if the colours that we're doing on the face are the actual colours that we need. Sometimes you just put the eyes in and it's like putting the eyebrows on, or hair, or lips or something. You can put those on and you can be working on a thing and think you've got it right, and sometimes you'll put the eyes on or something and all of a sudden you look at it and go, oh no, I know what I need to do now. And just that contrast, that point of reference can help. Or sometimes you put them on and you go, ooh, that's looking good. And it's exciting to find out. So we'll do that next time. We'll be more work on the skin. I might try and get some of the detail on the lips, get the lips the right colour. So tell you what, there you go, that's what we'll do next time. We'll start on the eyes and we'll do some more work on the lips, because he's got some people have lips and they are just lip colour. I mean, it's never really a single colour, and I never paint it as a single colour. I always paint about 10 layers on when I'm doing lips, regardless of who it is. But some people have quite flat, even colours, or they look like they're flat, even colours. He's got, I'm looking at the pictures now, the colours are quite mottled across. So there's browns and there's pinks and there's a lot going on. So we've got some patterns that we can paint on there. So we'll do that. We'll do lips and we'll do eyes and we'll do some extra work on the face. So I'm going to cut this off now and I'm going to get something to eat because I'm hungry. And I'll see you next time. So thanks for watching, and look after yourselves and be nice to each other, and I'll see you soon. Take care, guys.